My name is Nicole Hayes, and for most of my marriage, people thought I had it all figured out. To the outside world, we looked like the model suburban family, a steady husband, a bright teenage daughter, and a home that gave off the illusion of stability. Friends used to tell me they envied us, that we were the couple everyone wanted to be. And for a while, I let myself believe it too. Ethan and I had been together for over a decade. He was dependable, polite, the kind of man neighbors trusted instantly. He went to work every morning, came home most nights, and never forgot birthdays or anniversaries. He gave off the image of a loyal husband, and I clung to that image because I wanted to believe it was true. But little by little, the pieces didn't fit. His phone became a permanent extension of his hand, always on silent, always turned face down. Business trips cropped up more often, and his excuses for late nights at the office started sounding recycled. When I questioned it, he'd chuckle and tell me I was being dramatic. I swallowed my doubts, convincing myself that marriage required trust, even when it felt one-sided. The illusion shattered on our anniversary. I had arranged everything, reservations at his favorite restaurant, a babysitter for our daughter, even the dress he once told me I looked beautiful in. I imagined us reconnecting, laughing over wine, remembering why we started this life together. But Ethan never walked through that door. Instead, he stumbled in near midnight with a flimsy excuse and the faintest trace of perfume clinging to him. A smear of lipstick grazed his collar, and for a moment, my heart stopped. He looked at me, saw the suspicion in my eyes, and shrugged it off like it meant nothing. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply went upstairs, laid in bed, and stared at the ceiling until morning. Because in that moment, the truth was undeniable, my husband wasn't mine anymore. What cut deepest wasn't just the betrayal. It was knowing that our daughter, who still adored him, had no idea who he really was. To her, he was still the father who could do no wrong. And I realized then that I had been protecting his image more than protecting myself. That night, something inside me hardened. Ethan thought he was clever, thought he could play his games while I stayed in the dark. But he underestimated me. This wasn't just about a broken marriage anymore. It was the beginning of my revenge. After that night, I couldn't look at Ethan the same way. Every word out of his mouth felt rehearsed, every excuse sounded thinner than the last. I had always trusted him blindly, but now I saw shadows where I used to see comfort. And once suspicion takes root, it grows fast. I promised myself I wouldn't stoop to snooping. For years, I told friends I'd never be that wife, the one who checked phones or tracked bank statements. But one Saturday morning, Ethan left his laptop open on the kitchen counter. He had rushed out for a so-called meeting, and the screen glowed like it was daring me to look. My heart pounded as I sat down and clicked. I wanted to be wrong, desperately. But what I found proved every instinct I'd ignored. Hidden email folders, hotel confirmations, messages that no husband should be writing to anyone but his wife. Affectionate nicknames, secret plans, photos I couldn't unsee. It wasn't one woman. It was several. I stared at the screen until the words blurred, the weight of betrayal crashing down harder with each click. The man I thought I knew, the man I had defended to everyone, had been living another life right under my nose. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. That night, I acted normal. I made dinner, sat across from him at the table, and smiled as if nothing had changed. But inside, I was calculating. If Ethan had built this double life so carefully, what else was he hiding? How much money had he spent? How deep did his lies go? I started quietly collecting evidence. Credit card statements, phone bills, anything I could access without raising alarms. The pattern was clear: dinners in restaurants I'd never been to, jewelry I had never received, nights in hotels when he was supposed to be working late. The more I uncovered, the angrier I became. Not just for myself, but for our daughter. Every dollar he wasted on these women was money stolen from her future. Every lie he told chipped away at the family she believed in. That's when my pain started to shift into resolve. If Ethan thought I was going to sit back and let him destroy everything we built, he was mistaken. I wasn't just going to expose him. I was going to make sure the fallout left him with nothing. So I smiled a little brighter, kissed him goodnight a little softer, and let him believe I was still the clueless wife he had always underestimated. But what he didn't realize was that his perfect cover had already cracked. And I was the one pulling at the seams. Once I uncovered the truth, there was no turning back. I couldn't look at Ethan without seeing every lie spelled out in those emails, every hotel receipt flashing in my mind. But instead of letting rage control me, I chose something far more powerful: silence. Ethan had no idea I knew. He still swaggered through the house, tossing his jacket on the chair, smirking at his phone, and feeding me excuses that would have sounded ridiculous if I hadn't already read the real story. And the more confident he became, the easier it was for me to gather what I needed. I started keeping a hidden folder of everything: screenshots, printed statements, credit card bills, even notes on the nights he claimed to be working late. Each piece fit neatly into a puzzle that painted the real Ethan Hayes: a liar, a cheater, and a man reckless enough to gamble away his family for fleeting attention. But I knew evidence alone wasn't enough. If I confronted him with anger, he'd twist it, spin a story, maybe even make me out to be the paranoid wife who didn't understand the pressure he was under. Ethan was slick, and he thrived on control. So I leveled the playing field. One afternoon, I quietly scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney. Sitting in that office, I felt my stomach churn, but for the first time in weeks, I also felt steady. The lawyer listened carefully as I laid out what I had discovered. She explained how to protect myself financially, how to document his spending, how to prepare for the moment when confrontation turned into court. Her advice was clear: don't rush. Let him hang himself with his own rope. Walking out of her office that day, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time, I wasn't just the betrayed wife. I was the strategist. At home, I began setting small traps: innocent questions about his schedule, casual comments about expenses, even light teasing about his phone. I wasn't looking for answers. I was watching how he reacted. Every flinch, every stumble, every poorly crafted lie only confirmed how deep he was in. And I stayed calm through all of it. At night, when he rolled over and fell asleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling and reminded myself: patience. I had to be patient. Because if I moved too soon, I'd lose the advantage. Meanwhile, I focused on protecting what mattered. I opened my own bank account, redirected my income, and made sure Harper's college savings were locked away where Ethan couldn't touch them. Quietly, methodically, I was building a safety net for the day everything exploded. Ethan thought he was untouchable, that I was still the trusting wife who wouldn't dare question him. But the truth was, I was watching every move, every slip, every lie. And when the time was right, I wasn't just going to confront him. I was going to dismantle his world, piece by piece, the same way he had dismantled mine. Patience paid off. For weeks, I kept my mask firmly in place, smiling when he came home late, nodding when he mumbled something about deadlines, and pretending not to notice when his phone lit up at 2 a.m. Ethan believed he was still ahead, still pulling the strings. What he didn't know was that I had already tied the noose, and every lie he told only tightened it. The first blow came quietly. Using the advice from my lawyer, I froze certain joint accounts and redirected my direct deposits into the account only I controlled. Ethan didn't notice at first. But one evening, I caught the look on his face when his card was declined at the gas station. He brushed it off, grumbling about the bank messing up, but I knew exactly what had happened. Meanwhile, the private investigator I had hired continued to deliver. Photos of Ethan with women who weren't me. Time-stamped logs of hotel stays. Copies of wire transfers to a consulting business that didn't exist. Each report was another nail in the coffin of his carefully curated image. And then came Harper's school play. She had begged him for weeks to be there, and he promised, swore, he wouldn't miss it. That night, as the lights dimmed and she walked on stage, I glanced at the empty seat beside me. Ethan never showed. Harper searched the crowd for him with hopeful eyes until the end, and when she didn't find him, her smile faltered. I held her hand as she bowed, clapping loud enough for both of us, but inside, I was done. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me. He had betrayed our daughter. And that was the final straw. After putting Harper to sleep and kissing her goodnight, I went straight to my desk. I pulled out the binder I'd been quietly building for months, messages, receipts, the investigators' photos, and the paperwork my lawyer had drawn up. My arsenal was complete. The next morning, I walked into Ethan's office at home while he was sipping coffee, scrolling on his phone like nothing was wrong. Without a word, I dropped the folder onto his desk. Papers spilled out across the wood, photos of him with women, printouts of his hotel bookings, copies of withdrawals from Harper's college fund. For the first time, Ethan's confidence cracked. He looked up at me, his face pale, his mouth opening but no words coming out. "You're finished," I said simply. My voice didn't shake. My hands didn't tremble. I had imagined this moment for months, and now it was here. He begged at first, tried to explain, tried to spin it as stress, or loneliness, or just a mistake. But I didn't hear him. I had already won. The divorce papers were filed. The accounts were secured. The evidence was damning. Ethan had built his secret life on lies. And in the span of a few minutes, I burned it all to the ground. But I wasn't done yet. Because this wasn't just about leaving him. It was about making sure he could never hurt me, or our daughter, again. The morning I dropped that binder onto Ethan's desk, everything shifted. For years, he had walked around this house like a king, convinced I would never question him, never stand up to him, never see past the image he built. But now, the crown was gone. The lies were stripped bare. And he finally understood that I wasn't the naive wife he thought I was. In the weeks that followed, the divorce process moved quickly. Ethan tried every trick, denial, anger, fake apologies, but none of it worked. The evidence was too strong, the lawyer too prepared, and I was done giving him second chances. He had gambled away his family, and now he was watching everything slip through his fingers. The judge saw the truth. The photos, the receipts, the drained accounts, it all told the same story. Ethan's pattern of betrayal wasn't just personal, it was reckless. He had endangered our stability, our daughter's future, and his credibility as a husband and father. When the final ruling came, I kept the house, secured Harper's college fund, and walked away with financial stability that couldn't be touched. Ethan, on the other hand, was left with debt, damaged pride, and the reality of his own choices. The day it was official, I sat on the porch while Harper played in the yard, her laughter cutting through the heavy silence that used to haunt this home. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not just legally free, but emotionally free. Free from the weight of lies, from the constant guessing, from the invisible chains of betrayal. Harper came running up to me, cheeks flushed from playing, and asked, "Mom, are we really okay now?" I smiled, pulled her close, and said, "We're better than okay. We're finally free." As the sun dipped below the horizon, I thought about everything I had lost and everything I had gained. Ethan thought he could tear me down, that his secrets would stay hidden, that I'd keep protecting his image while he destroyed mine. But betrayal has a strange way of revealing strength you didn't know you had. I wasn't the broken wife he expected me to be. I was the woman who refused to let betrayal define her. Ethan's world crumbled, but mine? Mine was just beginning.